You know the exact feeling.
Oh, yeah. I think we all do.
Right. You open your laptop on a Tuesday morning and you are just immediately bombarded.
Completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, like there's a new AI feature in your email client, your CRM just updated with some, algorithmic assistant.
And
And
your company's all-hands meeting was basically just 30 minutes of executives using the word co-pilot as a verb.
exactly, Copilot this, Copilot that. But if you sit back, like if you look at your actual day-to-day workflow
Right.
and take a hard, honest look at your company's bottom line, you might be asking yourself a very quiet question.
Which is, if this technology is so revolutionary, why hasn't it fundamentally changed how we actually operate?
Yes, that is the question.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't, has it?
No, I mean, it's basically the defining corporate paradox of this exact moment.
Yeah.
Drowning in artificial intelligence tools, yet we're kind of starving for actual measurable business transformation.
It's like a mirage.
Totally. There is a massive structural disconnect between the sheer hype of these models
Yeah.
and the messy reality of how a business actually functions on a Tuesday afternoon.
And, well, that disconnect is the entire focus of our deep dive today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is. We are pulling apart a brilliant piece of analysis published in March 2026. This is by J.D. Parashar.
The founder and director of Rethynk AI.
That's the one. And the mission for today is simple but critical. We need to figure out why treating AI like a shiny new software upgrade is just a guaranteed path to failure.
A very expensive failure, yeah.
Exactly. And more importantly, how organizations can actually embed this intelligence into their core operations to create a real insurmountable competitive advantage.
Yeah. And Parashar, he establishes a framework right at the beginning that perfectly diagnoses this whole paradox. He argues that the vast majority of companies today are merely AI-enabled in pockets, rather than being AI-driven at the center.
AI-enabled in pockets.
Right. And it sounds like semantics, but it is a really profound operational distinction.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I think AI-enabled in pockets is the exact trap most of you listening right now are probably witnessing firsthand.
Oh, without a doubt.
Companies are doing what feels safe, right? What feels visible. They're rolling out these highly compartmentalized, incremental deployments.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. It usually looks like a standalone pilot program over in the marketing department to generate some ad copy.
Or a chatbot bolted onto the customer service landing page.
Yeah.
Just to deflect basic complaints.
Right, right. And we should be clear, those standalone applications aren't inherently useless.
No, they have value. But they suffer from what Parashar brilliantly terms fragmented intelligence.
Fragmented intelligence, I like that.
Yeah, because these tools are completely isolated.
Yeah.
I mean, the marketing AI has no idea what the customer service AI is doing.
Yeah.
And neither of them is talking to the core financial models. So they don't alter the fundamental mechanics of how the business creates value.
So to put a visual on that fragmented intelligence, it's kind of like treating AI as a standalone add-on is like bolting a jet engine onto a horse-drawn carriage.
I love that. That's a great image.
Right. Like, sure, it looks impressive, it makes a lot of noise, but you haven't fundamentally changed how the vehicle operates. The horse is still doing the work.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics of why that structural mismatch occurs in the first place.
Well, why is it?
Because AI is entirely different from, say, the software as a service boom of the 2010s.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, you don't just purchase a license, install it, and watch productivity tick upward. Parashar points out that AI generates exponential value only when it transitions from being a desktop application to being, well, invisible foundational infrastructure.
Invisible infrastructure, so it's baked in.
Exactly. It has to be directly influencing repeatable, data-rich, high-impact decisions in the actual arteries of the business.
What kind of arteries are we talking about here?
Functions like global supply chain routing or real-time pricing optimization, core product development, the stuff that actually runs the company.
The heavy hitters, the departments where, even a 1% increase in efficiency translates to millions of dollars in retained revenue.
Precisely. And when intelligence is embedded into those specific arteries, it totally ceases to be a novelty.
Right.
It becomes a scalable nervous system that dramatically compresses decision cycles across the entire enterprise.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If embedding AI into the core supply chain or the pricing model is so incredibly lucrative, why am I looking around the corporate landscape right now and seeing almost no one doing it successfully.
It's a fair question. And Parashar doesn't sugarcoat this at all.
Good.
He diagnoses 4 distinct structural roadblocks that prevent this kind of deep integration. Let's look at the first one, which he calls the trap of treating AI solely as a tech initiative led by the IT department.
Wait, I'm going to push back on that. Yeah, because on paper, that sounds completely counterintuitive. Shouldn't the data scientists and the IT infrastructure teams be the exact people leading the AI charge?
You would think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are the only ones who actually understand how the large language models and neural networks function under the hood. Why does Parasar argue this causes, what did he call it, lost business context?
It's a totally logical assumption, which is exactly why so many CEOs fall for it.
Right.
Yes, the IT department understands the intricate mechanics of the technology, but technology operating in a vacuum does not solve complex market problems.
Ah, I see.
When IT leads the deployment without an equal co-piloting partnership from business unit leaders, you completely lose strategic alignment.
Okay, give me an example of how that actually plays out in the real world.
Sure. Imagine your data science team build this technically flawless, highly sophisticated machine learning model to predict customer churn. The code is beautiful. But because the sales leadership wasn't deeply involved from day one, the model outputs its predictions in this complex dashboard that only updates every 48 hours.
Oh, no. And sales needs real time.
Exactly. The sales team operates entirely out of a different CRM software in real time.
Wow.
So the AI is doing brilliant math in a dark room,
Wow.
but it doesn't speak the operational language of the people who actually need to intervene and save the customer.
And so they just don't use it.
The adoption rate flatlines.
That makes perfect sense. The tool was built for the data, not for the workflow,
Precisely.
which I guess leads directly into Parashar's second roadblock, which is ignoring process design.
Yes.
He argues that companies are just shoving intelligent tools into undefined or broken processes.
And this is where the financial waste really compounds.
Oh.
Yeah, because if you insert an advanced AI into an ambiguous, poorly designed, or highly bureaucratic workflow, you don't fix the workflow.
You just make it a bureaucratic workflow with AI.
Right. You simply amplify the inefficiency.
I'm still a little stuck on the mechanics of that one. How does an intelligence tool make an inefficiency worse? Wouldn't it at least speed it up?
It does speed it up, and that is
Ah.
exactly the problem.
Wait, really? Speeding it up is the problem?
Yeah, let's say your company has a legacy procurement process. A manager needs 3 layers of manual executive sign-off just to approve a standard $500 software license.
Ugh, a terrible bottlenecked process. We've all been there.
Right. So if you give that manager an AI tool, they can draft the approval request in 5 seconds instead of 30 minutes, you haven't actually solved anything.
Oh, I see.
You've just accelerated the creation of a document that is still going to sit in 3 different executive inboxes for 2 weeks.
Wow.
You're optimizing the absolute wrong thing. AI cannot function if the underlying decision logic of the business is ambiguous or deeply flawed to begin with.
You are just generating a traffic jam much faster.
Exactly.
That brings us to the third roadblock, a complete lack of ownership. Parashar notes that in these fragmented setups, nobody actually owns the AI-driven decisions.
Which is a massive governance failure.
I mean, yeah. If an algorithmic pricing tool suddenly slashes your profit margins because it misread a market signal, who is accountable?
Right. If the IT team built it, but the sales team deployed it, and the marketing team provided the historical data,
Everyone points fingers.
accountability gets entirely diffused. And when no one is accountable, the system is viewed as an experimental risk rather than a core asset.
And if you're listening to this right now and thinking about your own team, you know exactly what happens when a new software is viewed as a risky experiment.
Oh, yeah. Cultural resistance.
Cultural resistance, that is the fourth roadblock.
The hardest one to fix, honestly.
Parashar points out that if employees feel their hard-earned decision-making authority is being threatened by some opaque black box, or if they simply don't trust the data the AI is using, they'll just passively reject it.
They'll just go back to their spreadsheets.
Exactly.
We see this phenomenon constantly. It's actually called algorithmic aversion.
Algorithmic.
Yeah, a human expert will forgive a human colleague for making a mistake. But the second an algorithm makes a single illogical recommendation, the human user loses all trust in the system.
And refuses to use it again.
Right. Culture will defeat a brilliant technical strategy every single time.
Okay, so we have thoroughly diagnosed the illness here.
This is looking pretty grim.
Yeah, we have the fragmented AI tools, the IT silos, the amplified inefficiencies, and the cultural pushback. So how do we actually cure this?
Well, Parashar says it requires a fundamental strategic mindset shift from leadership.
Yeah.
We have to stop asking, where can we try AI?
Right.
The question must change from where can we try AI to where does intelligence most improve how this specific function operates?
It's the difference between walking around with a new hammer asking, what can I hit with this, versus looking at a blueprint and asking, how do we build a stronger house?
That's a great analogy.
One approach focuses on the tool itself, and the other fundamentally re-engineers the infrastructure.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Parashar is advocating for the creation of an intelligence-driven operating model.
An intelligence-driven operating model.
Yes, in this model, the intelligence isn't an appendage. It's the core mechanism that dictates how the company senses market changes, analyzes options, and executes actions.
But how do we actually build that house? Like, how do we build the highway?
Right.
Parashar provides a highly practical 5-step blueprint in the source material. And he doesn't just list out vague corporate goals, right? He breaks down the operational sequence.
It gets really granular.
It starts with a reality check on what we are actually asking the AI to do, which means step 1 is hunting down those high-impact decisions.
You have to be absolutely ruthless about where you deploy this technology.
Ruthless how?
You're looking for decision points that sit at the intersection of 3 specific things. They must be frequent, they must be highly data-rich, and they must carry high business value.
He specifically mentions demand forecasting, pricing optimization, and risk assessment. The frequency aspect is what really caught my eye.
Why is that?
Well, if your company makes a massive high-stakes decision only once a year, like, say, acquiring a competitor, building a custom AI for that is likely just a waste of resources.
Oh, absolutely. The human variables are too high.
But pricing optimization, that is a decision your company might make 10,000 times a day, relying on millions of fluctuating data points like competitor stock, weather patterns, local demand.
Exactly. That is a space where human cognition simply cannot scale,
Yeah.
but an intelligence-driven model completely thrives.
Okay, so let's say you find that high-value target. That's step 1. Now for step 2, you decide to embed AI into your global pricing strategy. You can't just hand the algorithm to your pricing manager and say, good luck, right?
No, definitely not.
How do you redesign the workflow step 2 around that new intelligence?
You have to map out the entire decision journey and explicitly define the partnership between the machine and the human.
The partner.
Right. The workflow redesign must ensure that the AI is doing the heavy analytical lifting, processing the millions of data points to recommend a price,
While the human does what?
while human judgment is positioned strategically to complement it.
Okay, but what does that complement look like in actual practice?
It looks like defined escalation paths.
Escalation paths.
Yeah, so the redesign process needs a rule that says, for instance, if the AI recommends a price drop of more than 15%, the system automatically pauses
Ah.
and routes the recommendation to the senior pricing analyst for final human sign-off.
Oh, I see. So you aren't removing the human.
Not at all. You are elevating them to manage the exceptions and the anomalies.
That makes a lot of sense. But here is where I see a massive pothole in this blueprint.
What's that?
None of that elegant workflow redesign matters if the AI is reading from a database that someone forgot to update.
Oh boy, yeah.
Which brings us to step 3. Parashar brings up aligning data and systems as a non-negotiable step.
Data fragmentation is the silent killer of the intelligence-driven operating model.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. Like, how exactly does a legacy system destroy the logic of a modern AI?
Let's stick with your pricing AI example. Imagine your company operates on legacy architecture, where the warehouse inventory system only updates its data in a nightly batch process, say at 2:00 a.m.
Okay, 2.0 a.m. updates. Got it.
But you just plugged in a state-of-the-art pricing AI that calculates demand every single minute.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. By 3:00 p.m., a product might be entirely sold out in the warehouse, but the AI won't know that until the next day.
Because it hasn't hit that 2.0 a.m. back.
Exactly. So the algorithm sees high web traffic for the product,
Yeah.
assumes you have plenty in stock based on yesterday's data, and starts automatically heavily discounting the price to drive more sales for a product you do not even possess.
Wow. The AI is making hyper-confident decisions based on ghosts.
Precisely. That is how mismatched data pipelines cause algorithms to functionally hallucinate.
That's terrifying.
It is. If you want intelligence at the center, you have to do the unglamorous, highly difficult work of unifying your data architecture.
Step 3.
Yes, so that the AI is reading a single, real-time version of the truth.
Which brings us to the terrifying question of accountability, which is step 4. Parashar addresses this through establishing strict governance.
Essential.
Because if that ghost data scenario actually happens and your company loses hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single afternoon because the algorithm hallucinated a discount, who takes the fall?
That is the exact question governance is designed to answer before the disaster ever happens.
Before it happens.
Right. Embedding AI means embedding explicit responsibility. Governance frameworks dictate who owns the AI-supported decisions, how the algorithms are audited for bias or drift over time, and what the legal or operational safety nets are.
So it's essentially the rule book that allows executives to sleep at night while a machine makes 10,000 decisions a day on their behalf.
It is. Without a governance framework, you cannot scale AI confidently. It will just remain a localized experiment because the enterprise risk is simply way too high.
But there's still one lingering issue, and it's the human element,
Step 5.
the most important one.
We talked earlier about cultural resistance and algorithmic aversion. So how do you actually get an employee, a veteran who is culturally resistant, someone who has been trusting their gut instinct for 2 decades, to trust a machine's recommendation over their own experience?
Right.
Parashar emphasizes building organizational literacy, but is a training seminar really going to change a 20-year veteran's mind?
No, a training seminar won't, but transparency and empowerment will.
How so?
This is where Parashar's blueprint connects beautifully with itself. You overcome cultural resistance through the process redesign step 2 and the governance step 4 that we just discussed.
Wait, I need you to connect those dots for me.
When you demystify the black box,
Okay.
if you tell that 20-year veteran the machine is now making the decisions, just follow its prompts, they will absolutely rebel. I would too, of course.
But if you educate them on exactly how the AI weights its variables, and more importantly, if you build a governance structure that explicitly gives them the authority to challenge, override, or flag the AI's recommendations when their human intuition senses a lack of context, you change the dynamic entirely.
Ah, I get it. So by keeping clear decision escalation paths, AI actually strengthens rather than replaces human leadership control.
Yes. They stop feeling like they're being managed by a machine and start realizing they're managing a massively powerful analytical assistant.
Education and transparency, that's what builds that trust.
That's when the workforce reaches that level of literacy where they know the tool's strengths and its blind spots, the culture shifts from resisting AI to actively exploiting it to outmaneuver competitors.
Wow. To bring this all together, Rethynk AI's core message is just a massive wake-up call for corporate leadership.
It really is.
Parashar finishes his analysis with the point that, frankly, completely reframes the current tech landscape. He states that the organizations that will dominate the next decade will not be the ones with the largest IT budgets or the most AI subscriptions.
Right. It is not an arms race for software tools.
The winners will be the organizations that successfully weave intelligence into the actual daily heartbeat of their business operations.
The heartbeat. I love that phrasing.
Yeah. AI does not transform a company just by existing on a server somewhere. It transforms the company by fundamentally rewiring how core functions sense data, how they formulate options, and how they execute decisions at scale.
It changes the fundamental standard for executive leadership.
Completely. The critical question for a CEO or a department head is no longer, do we have AI? That's basically just asking if you have electricity at this point.
Right. It's a given.
The real existential question is intelligence built into how our organization works?
And as we've seen, getting to yes requires ripping out those structural roadblocks
Moving away from tech curiosity experiments.
and relentlessly redesigning your workflows, your data pipelines, and your culture.
So what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, where does the listener fit into this?
If you are listening to this and you are starting to realize that your own company is stuck in that AI-enabled in-pockets trap, consider this. As these intelligence-driven operating models become the standard, the definition of human value in the workplace is going to radically shift.
It has to.
If an embedded AI is perfectly capable of handling the predictable 99% of your high-impact, data-rich decisions, your entire professional value will no longer be tied to your ability to crunch numbers or follow a routine workflow.
Nope.
Your value will be entirely dictated by how you handle the 1% of anomalies. It'll be about your capacity to understand profound human context, to navigate ethical gray areas, and to know exactly when the algorithm is perfectly logical but fundamentally wrong.
That is the frontier every professional must prepare for. The algorithm manages the baseline. The human masters the exception.
Exactly. Are you just working alongside tools, or are you ready to become part of an intelligence-driven operating model? Look at a repetitive, high-impact decision you make in your own daily workflow. If you plugged an AI into that specific task tomorrow, would it actually make the company smarter, or would it just speed up a flawed, poorly designed process?
Something to really think about.
It is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, take a hard look at your own workflows, keep questioning the process, and we will catch you next time.